Yes, the question. Do you have the expansion or of that question or?
No, it just indicate in the chat that he is aware, I think, because he's asking 1 second. But feel free to discuss about your way you are using Cursor and what's new with Composer 2, for example.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry I couldn't answer that question. Yeah, going straight into Cursor itself. As you guys might know, we released Cursor 3.0, which is also kind of known mostly internally, but also externally as Glass, which is that which is this new entire way of use UI, or sorry, of coding with agents. So the traditional way used to be, or it still is because we still have the IDE. It used to be coding, but in the regular traditional way with VS Code like editor with a chat on the side, and the agent make um, changes on the file you were working on. And now we release, I think, last week we released Cursor 3.0. We completely re-envisioned the way to code with agents. Right now, or let's say traditionally used to be the center of coding used to be code and the editor, and right now the center of coding are agents, right? So that's why when you open the new version of Cursor, the first thing you see is a chat which is not tied to a specific folder. Sorry, the instance is not tied to a specific folder. Rather than you can choose any project you'd like to work on from here, and yeah, the agent it's much more smoother, is faster, it's cleaner. It essentially reduces the noise, it removes the noise and the distraction from coding like in the editor, and it just helps you focus on what's important here, which is building, right? So before in the IDE, we have all of these buttons, all of these flows, all of these um, interaction the user can make. And even though they're useful, they are kind of distracting when building. So right now, if you see the new UI, it's much less distractive. It's just the agent and just something open on the side, and you can also close it as well, right? And I like to have it open, especially because I like to have the browser here. Oh, sorry. You guys are hearing the noise of the game?
Nope.
Okay, that's reassuring because it's very annoying. Okay, so yeah, we built Cursor 3.0, which is it's a very intuitive way to play around with agents. And we also released, as Julien was saying, Composer 2. We released it. This was released, recently, and I don't remember how long ago, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. I don't remember. I think like 2 weeks, and yeah, it's our best model yet. It's slightly better according to not only benchmarks from Cursor, but also external benchmarks. It's slightly better than Opus 4.6, better for coding, especially. And I think that the most interesting fact about Composer 2 is that it's extremely fast, right? So that's our main advantage. If you use Opus 4.6, for example, which I love, I'm not going to say that I don't love Opus. I love Opus. I use it all the time. Right now, my duo is Opus 4.6 and Composer 2. I use both. But the disadvantage or the issue with Opus 4.6 is that it's extremely slow, right? On the other hand, Composer 2 is really fast. It's really fast. It's extremely good, and it's very intelligent. To be honest, the output of Composer 2 is not that much better than Opus 4.6. In benchmarks, it is like the results are better than Opus, but in my experience, it's basically the same. They're they're very similar in the quality of the output. So right now we can see the speed of Composer 2, for example, and it's extremely fast. If I do the same with Opus, it's going to take a lot of time, right? Actually, let's try that out to understand how fast this is. So this is Composer, right? If I change this to Opus, for example, right? And let's do, yeah, I think that's fine. Let's do 200K just in case. You see that we can already see that it's a bit slower, right? And also what I'm seeing right now is that the commands, like all of these commands it's making, doesn't make any sense. Like it should just go to the files itself and read it instead of listing stuff. Not sure why it's doing that. But yeah, it doesn't mean that Opus is not useful for me. Opus is very useful. I use it all the time. I guess that at some point it's not about intelligence. It's about the time the LLM takes to understand what you're asking and make the required research. So if you're trying to work on a really, really complex problem that requires a lot of thinking, I still believe that Opus is the best choice, just because, not because it's more intelligent, which is not, but more because it takes more time to think about problems. Composer, it was made to be fast. See, extremely fast. So yeah, 90% of the time I use Composer, because if you have an already established project and you don't need to do complex stuff, you need to kind of work on day-to-day coding tasks. Composer is much better, right? Because we don't want to wait for the LLM to think. But when I start a new project or work on something very complex, I use Opus. And Julien, I talked about Glass, I talked about Composer too. Is there anything else you'd like me to talk about that I'm missing?
Perhaps the new way to get the agent panel. I think when you open Cursor now, you have also the agent panel.
This one.
Yes, this one with also the idea of marketplace. I didn't check this features, but
yeah, let's talk about that. You're right. So yeah, let's firstly talk about the agent panel, right? So the good thing about the agent panel is that we used to have quite a distinction between what was happening in the cloud and what was happening locally, right? So there was no way to kind of centralize everything. If you wanted to use cloud, I mean, you could still use it for locally, right? But the experience was not as smooth as it is right now. So right now, like both cloud agents and local agents or foreground agents, you can see them here at the agent panel on the left, right? You can toggle it with this icon right here, and yeah, you can manage your cloud agents and your local agents here, which is very cool, and it's very useful. And you can also from here start cloud agents. So let me actually start a new task. Sorry, you can start a new agent, and you can choose. Where is this? Let me check. Did I miss this? Drafts. Here. Okay. Cursor Cloud. Right. So you can choose to run it on Cursor Cloud, right? And yeah, and start working in the cloud, which is much better because it can work for for hours or even days. We even have an example where the agent worked for 2 weeks straight building a browser. And yeah, the result is on Twitter if you guys are curious. So yeah, that's the agent panel. We basically have all of the, like you have all of the folders or projects worked on in your entire Cursor experience, right? And you can open it from here instead of going to open file, open folder, and open a new folder. You can just change right here to your desired, your desired repo. You don't have to open. It's a unified experience through the Cursor 3.0 UI, which is amazing. And you can also see the cloud agents here and the local agents. Now, talking about the marketplace, which is very fun. The marketplace, it's basically it's a marketplace for plugins. So each plugin is essentially it's a package of a set of tools you give to yourself and to the agent to use certain skills. So, or to work on certain, let's say, on certain provider connections. So for example, here we have Figma. If you install the Figma plugin, which is a package, you have a bunch of tools that your agent is going to be able to use. So for example, you have the Figma MCP, and then you have skills, which skills are, we also released these like in January, I believe, and they're like a set of, they're like superpowers you give to the agent to trigger a certain area of expertise in the agent. And that means that if you use any of these skills, they are actually used automatically by the agent is going to be much more proficient in design, for example, in the case of Figma. But if you go to, let's go to Vercel, for example. Vercel has skills, subagents, and commands and hooks, right? And all of these are tools or agents that you and the agent can use in order to do Vercel like tasks. So you can deploy to Vercel, you can improve the performance. You have a sub-agent. A sub-agent is particularly an agent with one of these skills, right? So you can use an agent, you can use special commands. So if you go to here and you use commands, you have it right here, which is basically a pre-created command for you to use. It's just context you can give. So this one, particularly from Cursor, I use this one to fix smoke tests. And yeah, that is an interesting example, right? So for example, in this smoke test flakiness issue, we use it to help the agent identify each issues in smoke tests. So our own tests, right now, they are very good, but they used to have a lot of flakiness in their failure rate. So they would pass like 95% of the time, but 5% it will fail miserably, the test. So I personally spent a month identifying flakiness issues, flakiness patterns that were common across all tests. Then I created this slash command that basically gathers all of these problems, and then I do smoke test flakiness issue, right? Please check the tests and identify and fix issues. And if you do this, it's going to use this slash command, read it. It's going to have like, I think there are like 10 flakiness patterns, and it's going to look for those patterns in all of the tests. So it's a very cool way to use it. That's the way I use skills or slash commands and sub agents. And
the marketplace is a way to distribute the MCP and the skills, etc. directly. That's it. That's the idea.
Exactly. each one of these plugins have a, well, this one just has an MCP, right? But can have MCPs, sub agents, skills, slash commands, and hooks, which are very interesting to use, and they're very useful for the agent. Like for me, it's like, especially the skills, right? So at this point, it's I take it for granted, but to be honest, skills is like my way to code nowadays. I use skills for everything. There isn't one agent session where I don't use skills. I use it like 100% of my agent chats, because skills is a way to help the agent gather the tools to help you, right? So that's the main reason I use it.
Okay, and do you choose every time the skill you want to use, or do you let the coding agent choose the right skill?
So personally, I do both, right? So whenever I start a new chat, I specifically prompt the agent to read some certain skills, because imagine, like, if you're going to start a new chat and work on UI, the context is not going to be the same as if you start a new agent chat and you want to work on the backend. So the skills the agent is going to need is different. So when I start, I usually tell the agent, hey, make sure to read the UI design skill for the coming task I'm going to request from you. So I always do that in the first request. But then after some, some history with the agent, I actually change that and don't request the agent at all to read skills. So if you just tell the agent, hey, I want to work on this UI thing, the agent is able to gather that skill, read it, and then help you with your tasks. So after some history with the agent, I don't usually tell the agent to read the skill because the agent does it automatically, just at the start.
Okay. And if you want, I've put some question. If you want to go to the Q&A part in Google Meet, if you want to answer some of them.
Yes, please. Feel free to ask me.
Yeah.
Whatever questions
the first
you have.
one was with the Composer 2, and you talk about Opus. When you are in the auto mode, when you are not using a model, what's the most used model? Is it automatically Composer 2, or it depends from what you are indicating in the context? Or Cursor choose the right model to do the thing?
That depends. It depends. So it used to be mostly Composer. Like the first week we launched Composer 1, it used to be mostly Composer, but nowadays it's a mix between Sonnet, GPT, and I don't remember which one. I think, oh no, sorry, not GPT, Codex, the latest one of Codex, and Composer is usually one of those three.
Okay, interesting. And with the new agent panel, and you are not looking for the files you are generating, in the future, do you think removing files will be still something, or with cloud agents, we don't review anymore the generated code, or we let agent do the test, or do you see the future? Because with this new panel, you don't see the files, but what's the way to review and be sure it's working?
Yeah, so at Cursor and personally on side projects, I obsessively review the code generated by the agent. I don't trust the agent in the grand scheme of things, in the sense that I trust it to generate good code, and even like better code than I would generate, and but I don't trust it in terms of architecture. So the agent mostly fails to understand the architectural needs you have and the scalability of your code. And I honestly encountered this multiple times. So the last time I encountered this was, I think, last week. So I was working on an automation system that automatically fixes smoke tests, and the agent basically was launching cloud agents from 2 different instances. So there was like, in summary, we have like an automatic system that launches cloud agents to fix smoke tests, and then we have a validation script that runs those smoke tests after the agent fixes it and makes sure that the test is stable. But what the agent did when I wanted to create this automation is to launch the cloud agent once on the automation, right, and once on the validation part. So it launched the initial agent launch on the automation file, but then after it ran the validation script, it launched the same agent from the validation script, and in order to do a follow-up on the same test in case the test failed. This is not very scalable, because if I want to send 2 follow-ups or 3 follow-ups, I can't do that from the automation, from the validation part. I have to do everything from the automation file. So those kind of architectural considerations or scale considerations are not taken into account by the agent most of the time. And it's not because it's not smart. It's just because it doesn't have enough context about what you need.
Yeah.
You don't even have enough context about what you need. Like most of the times, you just want a proof of concept, and once you do the proof of concept, you need, to scale this thing, and that requires a lot of changes. So we take reviewing code much more seriously at Cursor than writing code. That's like even in our interview process with new candidates, we evaluate mostly their capacity to understand and review code rather than how good you code.
Okay. And following this context engineering part for getting the best architecture for your code and to be able to resolve some scaling issues, do you use any spec-driven development framework internally at Cursor? We know about SpecKit, for example, from GitHub. There is also BMAD. There is also Getting Shit Done. There is many SDD frameworks right now. Do you use something from your side or internally at Cursor?
No, we don't use spec-driven development for Cursor. We use skills obsessively. We use slash commands. We use plan mode very much.
Okay.
But the thing about the spec-driven development is that spec-driven development, it's like the scope of spec-driven development is much more shorter. Like it's much more shorter than what Cursor as a project aims for, but at the same time, it's much more larger than for an actual plan, right? From plan mode. So, like in our case, it's not. We love spec-driven development, but in our case, it's not suitable.
Okay. And I have also one question about you talk about Cursor using the cloud directly, so it's not running on your laptop. Is it something that will happen, something like Cloud Dispatch or OpenClaw, something like that, to be able to manipulate Cursor directly, or is it something already available with the mobile and you're asking your agent and it run on the cloud, or is this something relevant or not to get something like Cloud Dispatch or something like that?
So I'm guessing you're asking because of OpenClaw, right? If there's something similar to OpenClaw. Or what do you mean?
Yeah, or Cloud Dispatch also, which is brings the ability to discuss with your Cloud Code on your laptop directly from your mobile phone, for example.
Yeah, so when you use cloud agents, it's running in the cloud. So you can have it, like the difference with OpenCloud is OpenCloud runs on your machine or your Mac Mini or whatever. So it's basically in your local network. But in the case of Cursor, it runs in the cloud. So when you launch a cloud agent, it runs in the cloud. You can work, here with the cloud agent, and then, close your laptop, go do whatever else. Then you open it again, and it's there because it's not running locally. It's running in the cloud. And then regarding the mobile part that you asked, we do have a progressive web app for Cursor Web, which I personally use, but we don't have a mobile app from the App Store and Android. I understand there's something in the works internally at Cursor, which has been, it has been in development for some while. But currently the only option for mobile development is mainly the progressive web app.
Okay. And there is a question from Brendan. With Composer 2, we see a huge improvement in the responses, and thanks for that. In the future, do you think we can run our own models locally for specific purpose using Cursor?
If you're going to be able to run Composer locally, that's probably not the case. That's not going to happen. If you mean other models, like for example Qwen or Kimi or open source models, and I think in the future that's going to be a possibility, because I think internally we believe that open source is the future, and we do see the benefits about running models locally. So yeah, probably in the future when the open source models become more powerful, which right now they're not very. I mean, they are okay for tasks like writing an essay, for example, or making a tweet, or very simple tasks. They're fine, but for coding, their performance is very poor. So right now it's not worth it. But yeah, we are striving for a future where that's possible.
Okay, thank you. And I have a last question for you. What's the secret behind Cursor to get the tools inside Cursor so fast? For example, read files, etc., comparing to the competitors. I'm also using Rust Token Killer, RTKey. Is it relevant with Cursor, or is it not relevant because the tools are already optimized, for example? Is it still something to use this kind of tool, or is it not relevant with Cursor?
I honestly, for those questions, especially for the last one, I have no idea.
Okay.
I'd say
No
that
problem.
the tools are very optimized themselves. We have a whole team working on it, non-stop working on making the tools efficient. So for example, the example of the MCP, which used to be like the whole MCP context was pasted in the context of the LLM, and that took a lot of tokens in the context window. And now we are treating MCP as files. So basically, we just include in the prompt we send, in the system prompt we send to the LLM. We say, hey, you have this MCP tool. This is what it does. If you want to know more about it and the internal functions it has, just read this file, which is an MCP file. So all of our tools are very efficient in that sense. And which was the first question? Sorry, can you repeat that again?
It was the idea to get, to know that there is a dedicated team to optimize the tools. And the last one was about Rust token killer, for example, this kind of project which are very popular right now to save some tokens. Is it relevant with Cursor or not at all?
Sorry, did you repeat the first question? I didn't hear the first part. He or she asked two questions, right? The second one I answered it. The first one I didn't hear it.
The first one, it was just about the project RTKey, Rust token killer. Is it relevant with Cursor?
All right.
To use it or not?
Yeah, I have no idea. Sorry.
Okay.
I have no idea because I don't know what it is. I hope it's useful.
No problem. And Olivier, for the last question, for you, what are the pros and the cons for Cursor versus Cloud Code right now? This is the two main tools we are looking right now, and what are the pros and the cons?
Yeah, well, objectively speaking, Cursor is a much more complete coding tool or coding experience than Cloud Code. Cloud Code right now is expanding, but they also have like this. They also do, like, Anthropic is a big company. It doesn't only work on Cloud Code, so it works on other stuff as well, but it's not coding related. And then regarding Cloud Code, I believe it has a much incomplete product as ourselves. I think that's an objective, it's an objective opinion. Also, the way you integrate Cursor into your workflow is much more easier than Cloud Code, because Cloud Code, the basis of Cloud Code is a CLI, and the basis of Cursor is an IDE. And most of us come from the IDE like background, so using Cursor is much more comfortable than using Cloud Code. That's the advantages of Cursor over Cloud Code. I guess the advantage of Cloud Code is that it's much more seamless to use in the CLI, in the sense that if you want to have a multi-workspace setup where you work on multiple projects at the same time, doing it on the CLI, it's much more intuitive than working on the IDE, right? So I'd say that's probably one of the advantages of Cloud Code. But right now, even with that, Cursor 3.0 has a very seamless experience to work with a multi-folder workspace. Yes, like we can see here on the left. So yeah.
Okay. And there is still a Cursor CLI. Is it still something?
Yes, we are actively working on the Cursor CLI. We have a team just dedicated to Cursor CLI. Since January, we've made a lot of improvements. So if you guys haven't tried the CLI since then, I highly recommend for you guys to go and try it. Have fixed a bunch of bugs and did a lot of cool stuff around it. And I think right now it's a much better state, a much better state than it was 2 months ago or 3 months ago.
Yeah. Okay. Just to finish, a big thank you for this Q&A session discussion, Ran. Thank you. I hope people enjoy. For your information, is recorded, so I will ask you: is it okay to display and it on YouTube? And if you have any question, feel free also perhaps to ask Ran on LinkedIn or something else. If you want to share your social accounts, Ran, you are free to share it on the chat.
Yeah, I can share it over here. I usually use Twitter. I don't use. I can put. Actually, let me paste my socials. It's much more easier. I'm much more active on Twitter than on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I don't use it that much.
Okay.
Here is my Twitter. And yeah, I can also give my LinkedIn if you guys are interested.
Yep. Perfect.
Amazing. Julien,
Thank
thank
you,
you very
Juan.
much. Thanks for
Thank you.
helping grow the community in Nantes. And yeah, thanks for organizing this. It was a fine session.
Thank you. Thank you. And see you soon for another meetup in Nantes. Perhaps we'll do it in person because we have something like 6 person. We can do perhaps an in-person meetup in Nantes. Thank you so much for this evening. I don't know, Ran, what time is it from your side?
It's 2:42 p.m. It's kind of early
Okay.
here.
Yeah. So have a good afternoon, Ran, and good evening for the others. See you.